Dad, I don't have a father, my daughter said, slamming the door in my face. She chose a stranger over me, handing me a restraining order instead of a hug. But I knew something the police didn't. I decided to break the law. I ignored the court order, drove straight to the airport, and forced my way to the gate just minutes before their flight departed. That single decision didn't just save her life. It ended with her husband in handcuffs, facing life in federal prison for a secret he thought he had buried in the Nevada desert years ago. Before I tell you what my daughter whispered to me at that gate, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and please subscribe if you believe a father should never abandon his child no matter what the law says. I'm Dr. Silas Freeman. 3 days ago, I flew home from Chicago to surprise my 26-year-old daughter, Maya. We'd been talking regularly for 2 years or so, I thought. She had a master's degree in psychology, a job helping trauma survivors, and a beautiful house in Piedmont that I had bought as her graduation gift. But when I rang the doorbell at 1247 Oakwood Lane, the woman who answered wasn't my daughter anymore. "Can I help you?" she asked politely, like I was delivering a package. "Maya, it is me. It is Dad." She tilted her head, confused. "Dad, I don't have a father. You must have the wrong house." Before I could respond, a man appeared behind her. "Is there a problem here?" "This man says he is my father," Maya told him. The man looked at me with pity. Maya's father abandoned her years ago. She has been very clear about not wanting contact with family. I watched my brilliant, independent daughter nod in agreement. That is when I realized this was not a family misunderstanding. This was something much worse. Let me back up and explain how we got here, because what happened next will only make sense if you understand what I thought I knew about my daughter's life. Maya had always been independent. After her mother died when she was 16, we'd grown closer than most fathers and daughters. She had finished college early, earned her master's in psychology by 24. Brilliant kid, the kind of person who could see through manipulation from a mile away or so, I thought. 2 years ago, when I decided to take the position in Chicago, Maya was thriving. She just started working at a therapy clinic in San Francisco, helping trauma survivors rebuild their lives. The irony of that would hit me later. "Dad, I want to stay in California," she told me during one of our last dinners together. "This is where I belong. This work matters to me." I respected her decision. More than that, I wanted to support it. So I made the biggest financial commitment of my life. On June 15, 2022, I transferred $3,200,000 from my account to purchase 1247 Oakwood Lane. The paperwork was clean, the location perfect, close to her work-safe neighborhood, the kind of place where she could build a real life. I also established the Freeman Family Trust with $2.1 million, naming Maya as the primary beneficiary. The trust was ironclad, designed to protect her from anyone who might try to take advantage. "Dad, this is too much," she had protested when I handed her the deed. "It is not too much. It is exactly enough. You deserve a foundation to build from." She had cried happy tears. We had hugged in the driveway of her new home, and I had felt like I had finally done something right as a single father. For the first year, everything seemed perfect. Our video calls were regular, full of stories about her work, her new life. She was dating someone casually, nothing serious. She seemed happy. Then Julian entered the picture. So the change was gradual. Maya started mentioning him more frequently. How thoughtful he was, how he was helping her get organized, how he understood her in ways other people did not. Classic early stage manipulation tactics, though I did not recognize them at the time. He is a lawyer, she told me during a call last fall. Real estate law. He has been helping me understand all the paperwork you set up. That should have been my first red flag. Maya did not need help understanding paperwork. She had always been sharp with details, meticulous about documentation, but I was busy with cardiac cases pulling long hours, and I trusted my daughter's judgment. The calls became less frequent after Christmas. When we did talk, Julian was often in the background. Sometimes I would hear his voice, always polite, always helpful, always somehow managing the conversation. "Maya seems tired," I mentioned to my colleague during a break between surgeries. "Kids get busy," he had said. "She is probably just building her adult life." But something felt wrong. The medical training that taught me to notice subtle changes in heart rhythm was picking up irregularities in my daughter's voice. She spoke more quietly now. She asked fewer questions. She seemed smaller. Last month, I decided to surprise her. I had been planning to visit for her birthday anyway, but I wanted it to be spontaneous. I wanted to see her natural environment, meet this Julie in person, and reassure myself that everything was fine. I should have called first. The flight confirmation showed my arrival time clearly. Tuesday, 2:15 p.m., San Francisco International. I had deliberately chosen a time when Maya would likely be home from work. I wanted to see her face light up with surprise. Instead, I saw a stranger wearing my daughter's face calling me sir and asking if I needed direction somewhere standing on that porch with Julian. I felt the same sensation I got when a patient went into cardiac arrest during surgery. Time slowing down, adrenaline, sharpening every detail, the understanding that someone's life hung in the balance. There has been a misunderstanding. Julian continued, his voice reasonable and calm. Maya has had some difficulties with family relationships. She has been very clear about not wanting contact. Difficulties. What difficulties? We talked 3 weeks ago. Julian's smile never wavered. Sometimes people say things to avoid confrontation. Maya has been working very hard on establishing healthy boundaries. I have been supporting her through that process. The word boundaries coming from this man felt like a scalpel being twisted. Maya and I had never needed boundaries. We had built our relationship on trust, respect, and open communication. I would like to speak with Maya directly. That is not going to happen. She has asked me to handle these kinds of situations. As if concerned fathers showing up to check on their daughters was a recurring problem that needed management. I looked past him toward the house. My house, the one I had bought for my daughter's freedom and security. Through the window, I could see movement in the kitchen. Maya cleaning something with mechanical precision. This is her house, I said. I bought it for her. Julian's expression shifted slightly like a poker player who had just been dealt an unexpected card. Actually, Julian said, reaching into his jacket pocket, there is something you should know about that. He pulled out a manila folder, the kind lawyers carry when they're about to destroy someone's life with paperwork. Maya and I were married on January 8th, 2024. As her husband, I have certain legal responsibilities to protect her well-being. He handed me a marriage certificate. The paper looked official, complete with raised seals and witness signatures. Maya Freeman, Price, Julie, James Price. Date of ceremony, January 8th, 2024. Maya never mentioned getting married. She did not want to upset you. You had been critical of her choices before. She was protecting your feelings. Critical of her choices, I had supported every decision Maya had ever made. I had celebrated her independence, encouraged her career, respected her autonomy. This was gaslighting, and I was watching it happen in real time. I want to see the house, I said. That is not possible. This is a private residence. You are not welcome here. I bought this house. My name is on the deed. Julian's expression shifted to something like pity. Actually, no. Maya made some changes to the property ownership after we got married. California is a community property state. She transferred ownership to both of us last month. Everything has been properly filed with Alameda County. He pulled out another document, a quitclaim deed, dated February 15th, 2024. Maya's signature was at the bottom, witnessed and notarized. But something was wrong with that signature. I had seen Maya's handwriting thousands of times. Birthday cards, thank you notes, college applications I had helped her proofread. Her signature had a distinctive flourish on the M and a particular way of crossing her T's. This signature looked similar, but the pen pressure was different. The angle was wrong. Where did Maya sign this, I asked. At our attorney's office. Everything was done properly. I stared at the document, my medical training kicking in. When you are looking at test results, you learn to spot inconsistencies that other people miss. The signature had all the right elements, but they were arranged like someone had been copying rather than writing naturally. I would like to speak with Maya about this. She's made her position clear. She does not want contact with family members who cannot respect her choices. Through the window, I could see Maya moving from the kitchen to the living room, carrying cleaning supplies. She moved like someone following a checklist, not like someone living in her own home. Julian stepped closer and his friendly demeanor dropped completely. Dr. Freeman, I think you should leave. Maya has moved on with her life. She does not need an aging father trying to control her decisions. I am not trying to control anything. I am trying to understand why my daughter is acting like a stranger. People change. Accept it. Behind him, Maya appeared in the window again. For just a moment, our eyes met. And in that moment, I saw something that made my blood freeze. fear, not confusion, not embarrassment. Pure, desperate fear. She looked away quickly, but it was too late. I had seen what I had seen. My daughter was not confused or boundary setting or moving on with her life. My daughter was terrified. I realized the signature on this document was not just wrong, it was a symptom. I drove straight to the nearest coffee shop and called the one person I knew who specialized in exactly this kind of situation. Evelyn Carter had a reputation in California family law circles. She did not handle divorces or custody disputes. She handled cases where manipulation had crossed into criminal territory. Dr. Freeman, I got your message. You said this was urgent. I think my daughter is being held against her will by someone claiming to be her husband. There was a pause on the line so long I thought the call had dropped. Then Evelyn asked, "What makes you think that?" I explained everything. The marriage certificate, the forged signature, Maya's behavior, Julian's controlling responses. Evelyn listened without interrupting, which told me she had heard similar stories before. "Doctor, I need to ask you some difficult questions. Had Maya shown any signs of wanting to distance herself from you before this Julian appeared?" "None. We were close. We talked regularly." "Any financial problems? Substance abuse? Mental health issues?" "Nothing. She was thriving professionally, financially stable, emotionally healthy." "In this personality change, when did you first notice it?" I thought back through our calls. October, maybe November. She started seeming more careful about what she said. "Dr. Freeman, I'm going to tell you something that might be hard to hear. What you are describing fits a pattern I have seen before. Professional manipulators target independent, successful women specifically because they represent the biggest challenge. I don't understand. Think about it from a predator's perspective. Breaking down someone who is already vulnerable does not prove much, but if you can isolate and control someone like your daughter, educated, confident, financially secure, that is a real demonstration of power." The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too warm. "Are you saying this is deliberate?" "I am saying I want you to meet me tomorrow morning. I'm going to show you 3 case files. I met Evelyn at her office in downtown San Francisco at 8 a.m. sharp. Her office looked less like a law firm and more like a war room. Glass wall stacks of files and a large monitor displaying financial webs that most people never see. Sit down, Silas. She did not waste time with pleasantries. I ran a preliminary check on Julian Price and the property records for the 47 Oakwood Lane. It is worse than we thought. How bad? The house is not just in both their names now. It has been leveraged. What does that mean? It means 3 weeks after adding his name to the deed, Julian took out a home equity line of credit for $400,000, the maximum amount the bank would allow. Where is that money now? Gone. Transferred to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands that I cannot access without a federal warrant. But that is not the worst part. Evelyn tapped her keyboard, and 3 photos appeared on the large screen. "Easy done. I want you to look at these women. Chloe Davis, 2019, Sarah Jenkins, 2021, Elena Rodriguez, 2023. What happened to them? Same pattern, successful women, sudden personality changes, isolation from family, mysterious marriages, property transfers. Chloe lost a $2 million inheritance and is currently bankrupt, working 2 minimum wage jobs to pay off debts she did not incur. Sarah lost her tech startup and is currently in a long-term psychiatric facility in Nevada, suffering from severe PTSD and what we call trauma bonding." My hands were shaking as I looked at the 3rd photo. A beautiful young woman who looked vaguely like Maya. And Elena Rodriguez. Evelyn hesitated. Elena has been missing for 3 years. Missing. Her family has not heard from her since she left with Julian in 2021. The police have no leads. The room seemed to tilt. You think he kills them. I think he discards them when they are no longer useful. Whether that means abandonment or something worse, I don't know, but I know we cannot let him get to that point with Maya. I felt sick. Where is he now? According to my last information, he was between victims. We had been watching for him to surface again. Evelyn's voice got sharper. "Silas, when did Maya meet this man?" "She first mentioned him about 8 months ago." 8 months. That is his timeline. 6 months to establish control, 2 months to transfer assets, then disappearance. You showing up might have accelerated his schedule. What do I do? First, you don't contact Maya directly. If he realizes we are on to him, he could disappear with her. These men often have exit strategies that include taking their victims to places where family cannot find them. She is my daughter. I cannot just sit here. Silas, listen to me carefully. If you push too hard too fast, your daughter could end up like Elena Rodriguez. We need to be surgical about this. Surgical. I appreciate the metaphor. What is the first step? I am filing for an emergency hearing tomorrow morning. We are going to request a freeze on all accounts connected to your trust and the property. California law allows this when there is evidence of financial elder abuse. Elder abuse. I am 58. The law covers anyone over 50 whose assets are being exploited through manipulation of their family members. It is a broader definition than most people realize. How long do we have? If my pattern recognition is correct, not long. Chloe, Sarah, and Elena all disappeared within days of their families getting suspicious. I thought about the fear in my daughter's eyes. The way she had looked at me through the window like she was trying to send a message she could not speak aloud. Evelyn, what time is court tomorrow? 9 a.m., Alameda County Superior Court. Judge Patricia Wilson. I'm filing the paperwork tonight. I will be there. Dr. Freeman, bring everything. Bank statements, trust documents, property records, anything that proves your financial relationship with Maya. We are going to need every piece of documentation we can get. I hung up and stared at my coffee, thinking about heart surgery. The most dangerous moment in cardiac surgery is not when something goes wrong. It is when everything looks fine, but your instruments are telling you something different. All my instruments were screaming. Evelyn said all three victims had the same pattern. At 8:45 a.m. the next morning, I walked into Alameda County Superior Court carrying a briefcase full of evidence and a heart full of controlled rage. Evelyn Carter met me at the security checkpoint looking like someone who had spent the night turning my daughter's situation into a legal weapon. Everything filed, I asked. Emergency motion for asset protection petition for investigation of elder financial abuse and request for immediate injunctive relief. Case number CV 2024-88861, assigned to Judge Patricia Wilson. Evelyn had been busy. Judge Wilson called our case at 9:15. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, but Evelyn assured me that was good news. Smaller courtrooms meant judges paid closer attention to details. We were up against a man named Arthur Sterling, a lawyer who looked like he cost $500 an hour and specialized in making problems go away for wealthy predators. Your Honor, Sterling began smoothing his tie. This is clearly a family dispute. Mr. Price and his wife have every right to manage their marital assets as they see fit. Dr. Freeman is simply a disgruntled father who cannot accept that his daughter is an adult, Mr. Sterling, Judge Wilson said, flipping through the paperwork. These assets were not marital property. They were purchased by Dr. Freeman before any alleged marriage occurred. Alleged marriage. Sterling looked offended. I have the certificate right here. Evelyn was ready for this. Your Honor, we would like to submit Exhibit A forensic handwriting analysis of the signature on that marriage certificate. The handwriting expert's report was devastating. Maya's signature had been traced, not written naturally. The pen pressure patterns, stroke angles, and timing intervals all indicated forgery. It was the kind of detail a layman would miss, but an expert could spot in seconds. Judge Wilson studied the document carefully. Mr. Sterling, do you have an explanation for these findings? We questioned the validity of that analysis. Sterling stammered, losing his composure for the first time. I see. Well, pending further investigation, I'm granting the emergency motion. All accounts associated with the Freeman Family Trust are frozen as of this moment. All property transfers dated after December 1st, 2023 are suspended pending review. The gavel banged, and I felt the first breath of air enter my lungs since I had arrived in California. But Evelyn was not done. She had requested immediate enforcement protocols. As soon as Judge Wilson signed the order, 2 officers were dispatched to the bank to implement the account freeze. Another team went to the county recorder's office to flag the property deed. I knew Julian would not take this lying down. The money was his oxygen, and we had just cut off the supply. We walked out of the courtroom into the bright California sun, but the temperature felt 10 degrees colder. Evelyn checked her phone constantly. We need to be ready, she said. When a narcissist loses control, they do not reflect. They attack. We did not have to wait long to see the effects of our work. 30 minutes after the gavel fell, Evelyn's phone buzzed with a notification from the forensic accountant we had hired to monitor the accounts. Look at this, she said, showing me the screen. Attempted charge $75,000. Location Silicon Valley Luxury Imports. Time 10:42 a.m. Status declined. He is trying to buy a car, I said, staring at the screen. Not just a car. He is trying to liquidate assets into movable property. A car can be driven across a border. A bank account cannot. He is at the dealership right now, probably screaming at a manager, realizing that his black card is just a piece of plastic. I felt a grim satisfaction, but it was quickly replaced by fear. A trapped animal is the most dangerous kind. If he could not get the money, what would he use for leverage? He had only one asset left. My daughter. Evelyn, I said. If he is at the dealership, he is not with Maya. We should go to the house. No. Evelyn grabbed my arm. That is exactly what he wants you to do. He wants you to violate the boundaries so he can paint you as the aggressor. We have the legal upper hand now. We have to let the system work. But the system felt too slow. I thought about the bruises on Maya's wrists. I thought about the terror in her eyes. I thought about Elena Rodriguez missing for 3 years. We went back to Evelyn's office to strategize the next phase. The plan was to serve Julian with the fraud investigation papers the moment he returned to the house. We wanted to catch him off balance, force a mistake, but Julian Price was not a man who waited for papers to be served. He was a predator who knew when the wind had shifted. At 11:30, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I looked at Evelyn. She nodded, signaling me to answer, but to put it on speaker. I pressed the button. Dr. Freeman. The voice was unmistakable. It was Julian, but the polite, deferential tone from the porch was gone. In its place was a cold, hard edge that sounded like metal scraping on bone. I see you have been busy, he said. I told you I would protect my daughter. You think freezing a few accounts is going to stop me? You have no idea who you are dealing with. I know exactly who I am dealing with, I said, keeping my voice steady. I know about the forged deed. I know about the stolen money. And I know about Chloe, Sarah, and Elena. There was a silence on the other end. A long, heavy silence that told me I had struck a nerve. You should be very careful about the names you say out loud, Doctor. Slander is a serious offense. Not as serious as fraud, or kidnapping, or murder. Julian laughed a dry, humorless sound. Murder. You really have an active imagination. Is that what you told the police? That I am some kind of serial killer? I told them the truth. That you are a con man who preys on women. And now that the money is gone, you are useless. You are finished, Julian. Leave my daughter alone and run while you still can. You think this is about money? He lowered his voice, and the menace in it made the hair on my arm stand up. You think I need your money to control Maya? You clearly do not understand how the human mind works. Money is just a tool. Control is an art. And I have painted a masterpiece with your daughter. You are going to unfreeze those accounts, Silas. You are going to drop this investigation, and you are going to do it by the end of the day, or what I asked, or I will show you exactly how fragile the human heart can be, especially yours. The silence that followed was heavy, pressing against my ear like a physical weight. I could hear him breathing on the other end, calm and steady, while my own pulse began to race, especially yours. The words were not just a threat. They were a revelation. I had never discussed my heart condition publicly. I had never posted about it on social media. I had never even told my colleagues the full extent of the atrial fibrillation that had forced me to cut back on my surgery schedule 3 years ago. Only one person knew the details. Only one person knew the name of the medication I took every morning to keep my rhythm stable. How do you know about that? I asked, my voice tighter than I wanted it to be. I felt a phantom flutter in my chest, the very symptom he was mocking. Maya tells me everything, Silas. Julian's voice was smooth, intimate, violating. She told me about the episode you had in the operating room in 2021. She told me about the metoprolol you have to take twice a day. She told me how scared she was when she found you on the kitchen floor that Christmas. It felt like he had reached into my chest and squeezed the organ I had spent my life studying. I had shared those moments with Maya because I needed her support, because she was my daughter, and I trusted her with my life. Now this stranger was holding my vulnerability like a loaded gun. That information was private, I said, gripping the phone until my knuckles turned white. It was between a father and his daughter. Nothing is private between a husband and wife, Julian countered. And that is your problem, isn't it? You cannot stand that she has a new primary loyalty. You cannot stand that she trusts me more than she trusts you. But let's talk about why she told me. Do you know why, Doctor? Because she is terrified of you. That is a lie. Maya has never been afraid of me. She is afraid that if she disappoints you, you will die. You planted that seed, didn't you? You made her responsible for your physical survival. Every time she wanted to travel, every time she wanted to make a choice you did not approve of, you reminded her of your fragile heart. You used your health to hold her hostage. I listened to his twisted logic, feeling the room spin. He was taking the truth and warping it until it looked like a monster. I had always tried to shield Maya from my health issues. I had downplayed the severity specifically so she would not worry. But Julian had rewritten history. He had convinced her that my love was a burden and my mortality was a manipulation tactic. You are gaslighting her, I said. You are rewriting her memories to make me the villain. I am not the villain, Silas. I am the cure. I am the one telling her that she is not responsible for her father's life. I am the one setting her free from the guilt you installed in her. And frankly, the stress you are causing right now is proving my point. He paused, letting the implication sink in. Do you want to know what Maya is doing right now? She's crying in the bathroom. She is terrified that this legal war you started is going to give you a heart attack. She begged me to stop you, not to save the money, but to save you. Even now, after everything you have done to control her, she's still trying to protect you. That is how deep the trauma goes. I looked at Evelyn across the desk. She was watching my face, closely reading the devastation there. She wrote something on a legal pad and slid it toward me. Keep him talking. I forced my voice to remain steady. If you care about her so much, let me speak to her. Let me tell her I am fine. I can't do that, Silas. For her own safety, I have to restrict her contact with toxic influences. And right now, you are the most toxic thing in her life. You are the reason she needs therapy. You are the reason she needs medication to sleep. Medication, Maya never took medication. She was a psychologist who believed in cognitive behavioral therapy. She was careful about what she put in her body. What have you given her? I demanded. What are you feeding my daughter? Only what the doctor prescribed to help with the panic attacks you caused. But let's get back to the point. You have a choice to make. You can keep pushing this investigation. You can keep freezing accounts and dragging us into court. But if you do, you need to understand the consequences. Stress is a trigger for you, isn't it? High blood pressure, rapid heart rate, the risk of stroke. It would be tragic if your quest to control your daughter ended up killing you. Imagine how guilty Maya would feel then, see? It would destroy her completely. He was threatening to kill me, but not with a weapon. He was threatening to kill me by inducing a cardiac event and then using my death to shatter my daughter's mind forever. Julian, listen to me. I took a deep breath, trying to slow my racing pulse. I know what you are. I know you are not a lawyer. I know you are a parasite who moves from woman to woman, draining them until there's nothing left. And I know you are afraid, because men like you only attack when they are cornered. Julian laughed, but the sound was brittle. I am not cornered, Doctor. I am liberated, and I am going to make you a promise. If that court order is not rescinded by 5 p.m. today, I will take Maya somewhere where your money and your lawyers cannot reach. I will make sure she never speaks to you again. And when your heart finally gives out, you will die alone, knowing that your selfishness drove your only child away. The line went dead. I sat there holding the phone, feeling the phantom arrhythmia fluttering in my chest. For a moment, I wondered if he was right. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe my love was suffocating. That is how effective the poison was. It made you question your own reality. Evelyn gently took the phone from my hand. "Silas," she said firmly. "Breathe." "What did he say?" "He knows about my condition," I whispered. "He knows the medication, the episodes, everything." Maya told him. Evelyn's face hardened. "That is not just a betrayal of privacy. That is strategic intelligence gathering. He has been mining her for your weaknesses for months. He knew you would come. He knew you would fight. And he prepared the exact weapon he needed to stop you. But he made a mistake," Evelyn said, turning back to her computer. "What mistake?" "He got arrogant. He stayed on the line too long. While you were talking, our forensic investigator sent over the results of the fingerprint analysis from the deed." I looked at the screen, my vision clearing. The man who called himself Julian Price was not just a con artist. The name on the screen was different, and the mugshot next to it turned my fear into cold, hard resolve. The face on the computer screen was the man who had stood on my porch, the man who had worn my daughter's husband like a costume. But the name listed next to the mugshot was not Julian Price. It was Caleb Reed. Underneath the name in bold red letters was a warning that made the blood drain from my face. "Approach with extreme caution. Suspected violent tendencies." Evelyn Carter picked up her phone and dialed a number she seemed to know by heart. Her voice was low and urgent. "Marcus, it is him. We have a positive ID on the ghost." She hung up and looked at me. "Silas, we need to go to the San Francisco Police Department right now. Detective Tyrell has been hunting this man for 4 years." 2 hours later, we were sitting in a cramped, windowless conference room at the station. Detective Marcus Tyrell looked like a man who had not slept in a week. He was younger than I expected, maybe late 30s, but his eyes held the weary weight of someone who had seen too much darkness. He stared at the forensic report Evelyn had placed on the metal table. "You are sure he is at the house?" Tyrell asked. "I saw him there yesterday," I said. "He is living there. He claims to be married to my daughter." Tyrell let out a long, slow breath and opened a thick file folder. "Dr. Freeman, you need to understand exactly who is living in your house. The man you met is not Julian Price. The real Julian Price died in a car accident in Seattle 4 years ago." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. "But he has a birth certificate, a driver's license, a law degree." Tyrell shook his head. "Caleb Reed is what we call a parasitic mimic. He finds men who have died recently, men with clean records and no close family, and he steps into their lives. He assumes their identity, their credit history, their credentials. He becomes them. That is why background checks never flag him. On paper, Julian Price is a model citizen. In reality, he is a ghost. But why, I asked? Why go to such lengths? Because Caleb Reed cannot exist on paper?" Evelyn answered. "Caleb Reed is wanted in Arizona and Nevada." Tyrell slid a photograph across the table. It showed a beautiful young woman smiling and hiking on a trail. "Her name was Vanessa Cole Tyrell," said softly. "She was 28. Bright, successful, independent. Just like your daughter. 6 years ago, she met a man named Ethan Clark. Charming, protective, a lawyer. They got married after knowing each other for 6 months. He isolated her from her family, took over her finances, convinced her that her parents were trying to control her. It sounded like a script I had already memorized. What happened to her? I asked, dreading the answer. Tyrell's jaw tightened. One day, Vanessa's family got suspicious. They hired a private investigator. They found out Ethan Clark was a fake identity. They threatened to go to the police. 3 days later, Vanessa went hiking with her loving husband. She supposedly slipped and fell 300 feet to her death. The room went silent. The air conditioning hummed, but I felt like I was suffocating. You think he pushed her? We know he pushed her. Tyrell said his voice hard, but we could not prove it. There were no witnesses. The physical evidence was inconclusive. It was ruled an accidental death. By the time we connected the dots to his other aliases, Caleb Reed had vanished. He took her life insurance payout, her savings, and her dignity, and he disappeared into thin air. Until now. I stood up my chair, scraping loudly against the floor. We have to go get her. We have to storm that house and get her out. Sit down, Dr. Tyrell ordered, his voice commanding. If you go in there now, you might sign her death warrant. Why? He is a murderer. We have probable cause. We have suspicion of fraud, Tyrell corrected. We do not have proof that he killed Vanessa. If we arrest him for identity theft, he makes bail in 24 hours. And once he's out, he vanishes again. And this time, he might decide that your daughter is a liability he cannot afford to leave behind. So we just wait. I ask, my voice rising. We wait while he psychologically tortures my daughter. We wait while he plans his exit. No, Evelyn said. We force him to make a mistake. We have frozen the money. That is the first blow. Now we need to escalate the pressure without triggering his violence. We need to let him know that the walls are closing in, but we need to do it in a way that keeps Maya safe. How do we do that? By using the one thing a narcissist cannot handle, Tyrell said. Exposure. We are going to strip away his mask, but we need to verify Maya's physical condition first. We need eyes inside that house. I thought about the man who had threatened my life on the phone, the man who knew my heart condition, the man who had studied my family like a predator studying prey. He is dangerous, I said. You have no idea. Tyrell looked at me with grim solidarity. I know exactly how dangerous he is, Doctor. I have been visiting Vanessa's grave for 4 years. I promised her parents I would find the man who did this, and now that I have found him, I'm not going to let him slip away, but you need to trust me. Caleb Reed does not kill because he enjoys it. He kills because it is a practical solution to a problem. Right now, Maya is his asset. She is his shield. As long as he thinks he can still get the money, she is safe. But the moment he realizes the money is gone forever, she becomes a loose end. That is why we need to move fast, Evelyn added. The freeze on the accounts is temporary. The court hearing is in 72 hours. He is going to try to run before then. He will try to liquidate what he can and take Maya across the border. Once they are out of the country, he will dispose of her. The words hung in the air. Dispose of her. My brilliant, beautiful daughter. My Maya. I felt a surge of adrenaline that pushed past my fear. I'm not going to let that happen, I said. What is the plan? Tyrell stood up and grabbed his jacket. We are going to pay Mr. and Mrs. Price a visit. Not as police arresting a suspect, but as officers conducting a welfare check requested by a concerned father. We are going to rattle his cage. We are going to let him know that we see him, and we are going to see if Maya is strong enough to walk out that door. We drove to 1247 Oakwood Lane in Detective Tyrell's unmarked car. The plan was simple. Serve the protective order, verify Maya's safety, and try to get her away from Julian long enough to break the spell. The house looked different in the harsh afternoon light. It looked more expensive, more isolated, perfect for someone who wanted to control another person without interference. The blinds were drawn tight, sealing the inside from the world. Detective Tyrell knocked on the door with the heavy, authoritative rap of law enforcement. I stood behind him, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I was not just a father anymore. I was a witness to a crime in progress. Julian answered, looking exactly like the concerned husband he had been pretending to be. Officers, he said, his voice smooth and puzzled. What is this about? Sir, we need to verify the safety and well-being of Maya Price. She is fine, Julian replied, blocking the doorway with his body. She is just having a difficult day. We will need to see her directly, Tyrell said, his hand resting near his belt. Julian's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing the cold calculation underneath. She is not available right now. She is resting. Sir, this is not a request. We have a court order. That is when we heard Maya's voice from inside the house. Not talking, screaming. Help. Please, someone help me. Detective Tyrell pushed past Julian. I followed with Evelyn right behind me. We found Maya in the kitchen, pressed against the wall. Her face was streaked with tears, her hair messy, her eyes wide with panic. But when she saw me, her expression changed completely. It shifted from fear to a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred. Get away from me, she screamed. You are trying to ruin my life. Why can't you just leave us alone? I stopped cold. This was not the response I had expected. Maya, it is me. It is Dad. I know who you are. She spat the words out. You are the person who abandoned me for 10 years. You are the person who is trying to destroy my marriage because you cannot stand that I am happy. Julian stepped up beside her, putting a protective arm around her shoulders. She has been very upset about your legal actions. She feels like you are trying to control her life. But Detective Tyrell was not listening to the words. He was watching her body language. Ma'am, are those bruises on your wrists? Maya quickly pulled down the sleeves of her sweater. I fell yesterday. I am clumsy. Those look like restraint marks, Tyrell said quietly. You were wrong, Maya yelled, her voice cracking. Julian would never hurt me. He is the only person who has ever really loved me. I felt like I was watching someone else inhabit my daughter's body. This was not Maya talking. This was a recording, a script that had been drilled into her until she believed it was her own thoughts. Evelyn stepped forward, her voice calm and professional. Maya, my name is Evelyn Carter. I'm an attorney who specializes in helping people who have been financially exploited. I would like to ask you some questions. I don't need help, Maya shouted. I need my family to leave me alone. Maya, I said, gently trying to catch her eye. I know you're afraid. But you don't have to be afraid anymore. I'm not afraid of anything except you, she retorted. Julian showed me how controlling you are, how you have been manipulating me my whole life. Julian was nodding sympathetically, playing his part to perfection. Maya has been working through a lot of difficult realizations about your relationship, Dr. Freeman. It is a painful process. Detective Tyrell pulled out his notepad. Ma'am, are you aware that your husband has been using your financial information to make unauthorized purchases? Those were not unauthorized. We're married. We share everything. And are you aware that Julian Price is not his real name? For just a moment, Maya's certainty flickered. Her eyes darted to Julian, then back to the detective. What? The man you married is using a stolen identity. The real Julian Price died 4 years ago. Maya looked at Julian, confusion replacing the programmed anger. Julian, what is he talking about? They are lying to you, honey, Julian said, squeezing her shoulder. This is exactly what I told you they would do. They will say anything to break us apart. Look at them. They want to take you back to that toxicity. But something had shifted in Maya's expression. A tiny crack in the facade. What did you say about your name? Tyrell pressed the advantage. Ma'am, I have a death certificate here for Julian James Price. Cause of death, automobile accident in Seattle. Maya stared at the document Tyrell held up. I saw the gears turning in her mind, fighting against months of conditioning. I don't understand, Julian. They are trying to confuse you. You know who I am. But if your name isn't really Julian, then who are you? I am the person who loves you. That is all that matters. Maya backed away slightly, hitting the counter. Evelyn stepped closer. Maya, do you remember signing any papers to transfer the ownership of this house? Yes. Julian said it was for tax purposes. Do you remember the day you signed them? Maya's forehead wrinkled. It was at a lawyer's office. But I felt strange that day, like I was sick or something. The whole thing is fuzzy. Maya, I said, taking a step forward. Do you remember our last phone call? You asked me about chest pains. I did. You said you had been having trouble sleeping, that you felt anxious all the time. You had never had anxiety before. Maya looked around the room like she was seeing it for the first time. I do feel anxious all the time. I can't remember things clearly anymore. Julian's voice got sharper, losing its comforting edge. Maya, don't let them manipulate you. Remember what we talked about. Remember the plan. But Maya was looking at me now. Dad, she whispered. Why does my head hurt? Before I could answer, Julian stepped between us. That is enough. You have verified she is safe. Now get out of my house before I call my lawyer. Maya is an adult. She has asked you to leave. Detective Tyrell looked at Maya. Ma'am, do you want to come with us? We can take you to a safe place. Maya looked at Julian. He stared back at her, his eyes cold and hard. I saw her crumble. The spark of rebellion vanished, replaced by fear. "No," she whispered. "I want to stay with my husband. Please leave." As we walked out, leaving my daughter in the hands of a monster, I realized that the law could not save her. We needed something stronger. Word count check, 1050 words. We drove to 1247 Oakwood Lane in Detective Tyrell's unmarked car. The plan was simple: serve the protective order, verify Maya's safety, and try to get her away from Julian long enough to break the spell. The house looked different in the harsh afternoon light. It looked more expensive, more isolated, perfect for someone who wanted to control another person without interference. The blinds were drawn tight, sealing the inside from the world. Detective Tyrell knocked on the door with the heavy, authoritative rap of law enforcement. I stood behind him, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I was not just a father anymore. I was a witness to a crime in progress. Julian answered, looking exactly like the concerned husband he had been pretending to be. "Officers," he said, his voice smooth and puzzled. "What is this about?" "Sir, we need to verify the safety and well-being of Maya Price." "She's fine," Julian replied, blocking the doorway with his body. "She is just having a difficult day." "We will need to see her directly." Tyrell said, his hand resting near his belt. Julian's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing the cold calculation underneath. "She is not available right now. She is resting." "Sir, this is not a request. We have a court order." That is when we heard Maya's voice from inside the house. Not talking, screaming. "Help. Please, someone help me." Detective Tyrell pushed past Julian. I followed with Evelyn right behind me. We found Maya in the kitchen, pressed against the wall. Her face was streaked with tears, her hair messy, her eyes wide with panic. But when she saw me, her expression changed completely. It shifted from fear to a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred. "Get away from me," she screamed. "You are trying to ruin my life. Why can't you just leave us alone?" I stopped cold. This was not the response I had expected. "Maya, it is me. It is Dad. I know who you are." She spat the words out. "You are the person who abandoned me for 10 years. You are the person who is trying to destroy my marriage because you cannot stand that I am happy." Julian stepped up beside her, putting a protective arm around her shoulders. "She has been very upset about your legal actions. She feels like you are trying to control her life." But Detective Tyrell was not listening to the words. He was watching her body language. "Ma'am, are those bruises on your wrists?" Maya quickly pulled down the sleeves of her sweater. "I fell yesterday. I'm clumsy." "Those look like restraint marks," Tyrell said quietly. "You were wrong," Maya yelled, her voice cracking. "Julian would never hurt me. He is the only person who has ever really loved me." I felt like I was watching someone else inhabit my daughter's body. This was not Maya talking. This was a recording, a script that had been drilled into her until she believed it was her own thoughts. Evelyn stepped forward, her voice calm and professional. "Maya, my name is Evelyn Carter. I am an attorney who specializes in helping people who have been financially exploited. I would like to ask you some questions." "I don't need help," Maya shouted. "I need my family to leave me alone." "Maya," I said, gently trying to catch her eye, "I know you're afraid, but you don't have to be afraid anymore." "I'm not afraid of anything except you," she retorted. "Julian showed me how controlling you are, how you have been manipulating me my whole life." Julian was nodding sympathetically, playing his part to perfection. "Maya has been working through a lot of difficult realizations about your relationship, Dr. Freeman. It is a painful process." Detective Tyrell pulled out his notepad. "Ma'am, were you aware that your husband has been using your financial information to make unauthorized purchases?" "Those were not unauthorized. We are married. We share everything." "And are you aware that Julian Price is not his real name?" For just a moment, Maya's certainty flickered. Her eyes darted to Julian, then back to the detective. "What? The man you married is using a stolen identity? The real Julian Price died 4 years ago." Maya looked at Julian, confusion replacing the programmed anger. Julian, what is he talking about?" "They are lying to you, honey. Julian said, squeezing her shoulder. This is exactly what I told you they would do. They will say anything to break us apart. Look at them. They want to take you back to that toxicity, but something had shifted in Maya's expression. A tiny crack in the facade. What did you say about your name? Tyrell pressed the advantage. Ma'am, I have a death certificate here for Julian James Price. Cause of death, automobile accident in Seattle. Maya stared at the document Tyrell held up. I saw the gears turning in her mind, fighting against months of conditioning. I don't understand, Julian. They are trying to confuse you. You know who I am, but if your name isn't really Julian, then who are you? I am the person who loves you. That is all that matters. Maya backed away slightly, hitting the counter. Evelyn stepped closer. Maya, do you remember signing any papers to transfer the ownership of this house? Yes. Julian said it was for tax purposes. Do you remember the day you signed them? Maya's forehead wrinkled. It was at a lawyer's office, but I felt strange that day, like I was sick or something. The whole thing is fuzzy. Maya, I said, taking a step forward. Do you remember our last phone call? You asked me about chest pains. I did. You said you had been having trouble sleeping, that you felt anxious all the time. You had never had anxiety before. Maya looked around the room like she was seeing it for the first time. I do feel anxious all the time. I can't remember things clearly anymore. Julian's voice got sharper, losing its comforting edge. Maya, don't let them manipulate you. Remember what we talked about. Remember the plan. But Maya was looking at me now. Dad, she whispered. Why does my head hurt? Before I could answer, Julian stepped between us. That is enough. You have verified she is safe. Now get out of my house before I call my lawyer. Maya is an adult. She has asked you to leave. Detective Tyrell looked at Maya. Ma'am, do you want to come with us? We can take you to a safe place. Maya looked at Julian. He stared back at her, his eyes cold and hard. I saw her crumble. The spark of rebellion vanished, replaced by fear. No, she whispered. I want to stay with my husband. Please leave. As we walked out, leaving my daughter in the hands of a monster, I realized that the law could not save her. We needed something stronger. What happened next nearly destroyed everything we had worked for. Within 2 hours of Maya's breakdown, Julian's legal machinery roared to life. We were still at the police station, sitting in the fluorescent hum of the conference room, trying to process the image of my daughter begging us to leave. I was pacing the small room, replaying the look in Maya's eyes when a process server walked in. He didn't look like a threat. He looked like a courier delivering lunch, but the envelope he handed me contained a nuclear option. You have been served, he said flatly, dropping the thick stack of papers on the metal table before turning to leave. Evelyn opened the folder, and I watched the color drain from her face. It is a countersuit, she said, her voice tight, filed under case number CV 2020-48932. They are not just defending themselves, Silas, they are attacking. The lawsuit alleged that I was an unstable elderly man suffering from paranoid delusions, that I had been psychologically abusing my daughter for years, and that I was now using false accusations to harass her husband. But worse than that, much worse, was the restraining order attached to the lawsuit. They are claiming you are a danger to Maya's mental health, Evelyn explained, reading through the paperwork with growing horror. They have sworn statements here from Maya herself, claiming that your presence causes her severe panic attacks and cardiac stress. I felt the room spinning. My daughter didn't write this, I said. She can barely form a coherent sentence in his presence. She signed it, Silas. And in the eyes of the court, that is all that matters. The restraining order was comprehensive and devastating. I was prohibited from contacting Maya, directly from going within 500 feet of the house. I bought her from accessing any joint financial accounts and from interfering with her therapeutic recovery process. The irony was suffocating. The man who was psychologically torturing my daughter was using the law to protect his torture chamber. Judge Wilson, the same judge who had helped us that morning, was forced to sign a temporary order until a full hearing could be held. She had no choice.
When an allegation of domestic harassment is filed, the court errs on the side of caution. How long, I asked, staring at the paper that made me a criminal for loving my daughter. Minimum 72 hours, Evelyn said. Maybe longer if they request a continuance. 72 hours. They could be on the other side of the world in 72 hours. Detective Tyrell slammed his hand on the table. This is a strategy. It is not about winning the lawsuit. It is about buying time. He knows we made him, and he knows he cannot access the money while the freeze is in place. He needs 3 days to figure out an exit route that doesn't require the bank accounts. And he just bought himself those 3 days by legally paralyzing us. I looked at the restraining order. It was a perfect trap. If I went near the house to save Maya, I would be arrested. If I stayed away, Julian would vanish with her. Evelyn, do something. File a counter motion. Get this thrown out. I can't, she said. And I saw real fear in her eyes for the first time. Not until Monday. The courts are closing for the weekend. He timed this perfectly. He filed at 4:55 p.m. on a Friday. There's no judge available to hear an appeal until Monday morning. By then it will be too late. The realization hit me like a physical blow. The system was designed for normal people, for rational disputes. It was not designed for monsters who knew how to weaponize the rules. I read the specific allegations in the lawsuit. Paragraph 4 stated Dr. Freeman has a history of projecting his own medical anxieties onto his daughter. Paragraph 5 claimed Dr. Freeman has threatened the plaintiff, Julian Price, with physical violence. It was a masterclass in projection. Julian was taking his own crimes and pasting my face on them. He was painting a picture of a deranged, controlling father who couldn't let go and a loving husband trying to protect his fragile wife. What happens if I ignore it? I asked. What happens if I go back there right now? You go to jail, Evelyn said bluntly. And not just for a night. Violation of a protective order is a serious offense. You will be held without bail because of the flight risk associated with your resources. And while you are sitting in a cell, Julian will put Maya in a car and drive her across the border. You cannot give him that victory, Silas. You cannot let him put you in a cage. But he has my daughter in a cage. I felt a crushing pressure in my chest, the familiar warning sign of my own heart protesting the stress. I sat down, forcing myself to breathe. My medical training told me I was in atrial fibrillation. My heart was beating out of rhythm, chaotic and inefficient. It was exactly how I felt inside. Chaotic. Helpless. Detective Tyrell looked at the clock on the wall. It was 6 p.m. The sun was going down over San Francisco. Somewhere in Piedmont, behind closed blinds, Caleb Reed was celebrating. He had beaten the police, he had beaten the bank, and he had beaten a father who thought he could save his child. We need to watch the house, Tyrell said. I can't go near it, but I can have a patrol car sit down the block. If they try to leave, we can follow them. Follow them and do what Evelyn asked. You can't stop them. They are free adults. Unless you see a crime in progress, you cannot pull them over. And thanks to this order, if Silas follows them, he is the one committing the crime. We were checkmated. The law, which was supposed to be a shield, had been turned into a sword, and it was pointed right at my throat. I looked at the paperwork again. The signature at the bottom of the complaint was Maya Freeman Price. It was the same shaky, forced signature I had seen on the deed. It was a signature of surrender. The waiting was worse than the fighting. Saturday passed in a blur of agonizing silence. We were holed up in Evelyn's office, drinking stale coffee and staring at silent monitors while the clock ticked away the precious hours of my daughter's life. The restraining order had done exactly what Caleb Reed intended. It had paralyzed us. We were terrified to make a move that might send him underground, yet terrified that doing nothing was giving him a head start. The answer came at 10:15 on Sunday morning, and it came in the form of a priority alert on Detective Tyrell's laptop. He looked at the screen, and the color drained from his face. He found a loophole, Tyrell said, his voice flat. We froze the trust. We froze the house. We froze every joint account listed in the marriage documents, but we missed a dormant savings account Maya opened in college. It was at a credit union in San Jose. He just walked into a branch and withdrew $50,000 in cash. $50,000. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough. It was running money. Enough to buy fake documents, pay for cheap motels, and bribe border guards. Where is he now? Evelyn asked, already typing furiously. We just got a ping on his cell phone, Tyrell replied. He is moving south on Highway 101. He passed Gilroy 10 minutes ago. He is not going back to the house. He is running. South meant only one thing: Los Angeles, San Diego, and then the Mexican border. Once he crossed into Tijuana, he would disappear into the chaotic flow of international traffic. We would lose him, and I would lose Maya. But why run now, I asked, trying to make sense of the erratic behavior. Why not wait for the hearing? Because he knows we are close, Tyrell said, and because he is done with the asset. He has squeezed what he can out of the house and the accounts. Now, he is cutting his losses. The phrase cutting his losses made my stomach turn. In the business world, that meant selling stock. In Caleb Reed's world, it meant something far more sinister. Tyrell's phone rang again. He answered it, and the room went dead silent. I watched his expression shift from determination to horror. He listened for a long time, only saying yes, and I understand before hanging up. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw genuine fear in the detective's eyes. Dr. Freeman, there is something else you need to know. That was the Nevada State Police. They found Elena Rodriguez. I felt a cold wave crash over me. Is she alive? Tyrell shook his head slowly. A hiker found remains in a shallow grave in the desert outside Las Vegas yesterday. They just confirmed the identity through dental records. She's been dead for 3 years. The room seemed to tilt. The abstract fear I'd been fighting suddenly became a concrete, bloody reality. This wasn't just fraud. This wasn't just emotional abuse. This was murder. I couldn't finish the sentence. The autopsy showed blunt force trauma, Tyrell said quietly. It wasn't an accident, Silas. He killed her because she became a liability. And Dr. Freeman, the timeline matches exactly what is happening now. Elena disappeared 3 days after her family tried to intervene. He took her on a road trip to fix their marriage. She never came back. My daughter was in a car with a man who had bludgeoned his previous wife to death and buried her in the desert. And I was sitting in an office in San Francisco, prohibited by law from trying to save her. Why does he take them? I asked, my voice trembling with rage. If he has the money, why not just leave? Why take the risk of traveling with a hostage? Because she is a witness, Evelyn said, her voice shaking. She knows his face. She knows his aliases. She knows too much. He takes them to a secondary location to dispose of the evidence. He drives them across the border where the investigation becomes a jurisdictional nightmare, and then he comes back alone. The logic was cold, brutal, and undeniable. Maya wasn't a partner in his escape. She was loose cargo, and he was driving her toward a disposal site. Detective Tyrell stood up and grabbed his keys. I am calling the Highway Patrol. We are putting out an Amber Alert equivalent for at-risk adults. We have probable cause now for a homicide investigation. We can stop that car, but he's hours ahead of us, I said. He will be in Los Angeles by sunset. If he crosses the border tonight, we can't touch him. We have to try, Tyrell said. I am going after him. You stay here. If you violate that restraining order, you will complicate the prosecution. Complicate the prosecution. I didn't care about the prosecution. I didn't care about the law. I cared about the fact that my daughter had maybe 6 hours to live. I looked at Evelyn. She looked back at me, and I saw that she understood. She was a lawyer, an officer of the court, but she was also a human being. She slid a piece of paper across the desk. It was the address of the house on Oakwood Lane. Why are you giving me this? I asked. Because he is gone, she said softly. The house is empty. And if he left in a hurry, he might have left something behind. Something that tells us exactly where he is going. I stood up. I'm going to the house. Silas, if you go there, you are breaking the law. I'm a father, I said. The law stopped mattering the moment he put my daughter in that car. I walked out of the office and into the blinding Sunday light. I knew I might be driving straight to prison, but as I turned my key in the ignition, all I could see was Elena Rodriguez in the desert and Maya sitting in the passenger seat next to a killer. I had to see the room where he broke her. I had to understand the monster to defeat him. I sat down in the chair where Caleb Reed had sat for months, orchestrating the destruction of my family. I picked up the headphones. I knew I shouldn't listen, it would haunt me for the rest of my life, but I had to know what he had done to her, what truths he had twisted to make my daughter hate me. I inserted the memory card labeled Session Final into the reader and put the headphones over my ears. I pressed play, and the silence of the house was broken by the sound of my daughter weeping. The voice on the recording was calm, clinical, and terrifying. It was Caleb Reed playing the role of a therapist, but his questions were scalpel cuts designed to sever the bond between a father and daughter. And Maya, tell me again why your father bought this house. Because he loves me? Maya's voice answered, sounding tired but defiant. No, Caleb corrected her gently. Look deeper. Does love come with conditions? Does love come with a deed held over your head like a weapon? He bought it to keep you in his orbit. He bought it so he could enter your sanctuary whenever he wanted. He bought it to own you. There was a long pause on the tape, followed by the sound of Maya weeping softly. Say it, Maya. Say he bought it to own you. I cannot, she whispered. Say it, or we restart the session. I listened to my strong, brilliant daughter break. He bought it to own me, she finally repeated, her voice void of hope. Good girl. Now tell me who the only person is that truly respects your freedom. You are Julian. You are. I tore the headphones off, feeling physically sick. I wanted to smash the equipment. I wanted to burn the house down. I wanted to find Caleb Reed and tear him apart with my bare hands.
But before I could move, the silence of the room was shattered by a ringing phone. It was my cell phone. I looked at the screen. Unknown number. I answered, my hand shaking with a rage so cold it burned. Dr. Freeman, the voice said, I see you found my studio. Do you like my work? It was Caleb. He wasn't calling to threaten me this time. He was calling to brag. He knew I was in the house. He had cameras. He was watching me listen to his masterpiece. Where's my daughter? I demanded, scanning the room for the hidden lens. She's right here, Caleb said. She is looking out the window at the planes. She is very excited about our trip. Planes. He was at an airport. The background noise confirmed it. The distant hum of announcements, the murmur of a crowd. You are not going to get away with this, Caleb. The police know about Elena Rodriguez. They know about the shallow grave in Nevada. There was a pause, but no panic. Elena had issues, he said smoothly. She was unstable.
It was a tragedy, really. But Maya is different. Maya is a survivor. That is why I chose her. You didn't choose her, I spat. You hunted her. You are a predator. I am a liberator, he countered. You should thank me, doctor. I took a spoiled, dependent child and turned her into a woman who knows where her loyalties lie. Did you hear the recording from last week? The one where she admits she wishes you had never come back from Chicago. It is very moving. I listened to his arrogance, his absolute certainty that he was untouchable. He believed he had won. He believed he was smarter than the police, smarter than the lawyers, and certainly smarter than a desperate father. Tell me something, Caleb. Why do you do it? Is it just the money? He laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. Money is boring. Money is easy. No, Silas. It is about the clay. The clay. Taking a human being, a confident, successful human being, and molding them until they are something new. Something yours. When Maya looks at me, she doesn't just see a husband. She sees her entire world. That is a feeling you will never understand. Because you love her for who she is. I love her for who I made her. And now I'm going to take my creation somewhere you will never find us. We are boarding now, he said. Say goodbye to your daughter, doctor. She won't be calling you back. The line went dead.
I stood there in the silence of the soundproof closet, surrounded by the evidence of my daughter's destruction. He was gone. He had won. But just as the despair threatened to crush me, my phone rang again. I stared at it. It wasn't an unknown number this time. The name on the screen made my heart stop. Maya Freeman. I answered the phone with trembling hands. Maya, I whispered, afraid that if I spoke too loud, the connection would break. Dad. Her voice was shaking, but it was not the robotic flat tone I had heard in the house. It was not the voice of a broken victim. It was my daughter.
It was the Maya I knew. Dad listened to me carefully. I only have a minute. He thinks I am in the bathroom sick. Maya, where are you? We know he is taking you. We know everything. No, Dad. You don't know everything. You think he brainwashed me? You think I signed those papers because I was weak? I didn't. I did it because he said he would kill you. The words hit me harder than any physical blow. What? He has your medical records, Dad. He showed them to me the night you arrived. He knows about the atrial fibrillation. He knows about the medication. He told me that if I tried to leave, or if I told you the truth, he would cause a scene so stressful it would stop your heart. He said he would kill you without ever touching you, and the autopsy would just call it natural causes. I stood frozen in the closet, the phone pressed to my ear. The threat Caleb made to me on the phone earlier wasn't a new tactic. It was the leash he had been using on my daughter for days. She wasn't protecting herself. She was protecting me. She'd absorbed the abuse, the humiliation, and the terror, all to keep my heart beating. So when the police came, she continued, her voice cracking. I had to do it. I had to scream at you. I had to make you hate me so you would leave. Because if you stayed, I knew he was ready to do it. I saw the look in his eyes, Dad. He was going to kill you right there in the living room. I felt tears running down my face. My brave, incredible daughter. She had sacrificed her freedom to buy my survival. Maya, I said, my voice choking with a mixture of grief and pride. You saved me, but now I'm going to save you. Where are you exactly? We were at San Francisco International, Terminal 2, Gate 54. We are boarding a flight to Mexico City in 20 minutes. But Dad, there's something else. What? He's not alone. There's a girl with him. Her name is Monica. She looks so young, Dad. Maybe 22. She is acting exactly like I was acting yesterday. Terrified, clinging to him. She thinks he is saving her from her family. He has another victim. The realization turned my fear into cold, hard determination. He wasn't just escaping. He was starting the cycle all over again. He was going to use Monica to replace Maya, and Maya would become another Elena Rodriguez buried in the desert. Maya, listen to me. The police are on their way. Do not get on that plane. Lock the bathroom door. Scream if you have to. Just buy us 5 minutes. I can't, she whispered. He is texting me. He is coming to check on me. Dad, I have to go. I'm going to try to stop him. The line went dead. I didn't waste a second. I dialed Detective Terrell as I ran out of the house. He picked up on the first ring, Terminal 2. Gate 54. He's boarding a flight to Mexico City, and Terrell, he has a hostage. Not Maya. Another girl named Monica. Terrell didn't ask how I knew. He just said we are 3 minutes away. I jumped into my rental car and peeled out of the driveway. I knew I couldn't make it to the airport in time, but I had to be moving. I had to be driving toward her. I turned on the police scanner app Tyrell had told me to download, and the static-filled voices filled the car. Dispatch, this is Unit 4. We have eyes on the target at Gate 54. Subject fits the description of Caleb Reed. He is accompanied by 2 females. One appears to be arguing with him. The other is crying. Arguing. Maya wasn't locking herself in the bathroom. She was fighting. She was standing between the monster and his next victim. I gripped the steering wheel, praying to a God I hadn't spoken to in years.
Keep her safe. Just keep her safe for 2 more minutes. The scanner crackled again, the officer's voice spiking with adrenaline. Subject is becoming agitated. He is grabbing the first female. He is trying to force her onto the jetway. He has a hand in his pocket. Possible weapon. Move in. Move in now. The scanner went silent for 10 seconds that felt like 10 years. Then Detective Tyrell's voice came back breathless but steady. Suspect is in custody. Everyone is safe. I abandoned my car at the curb of the departure level, ignoring the shouts of traffic cops. I ran through the automatic doors, flashing my hospital badge to get through the security line until a TSA agent tried to tackle me. I am Dr. Freeman, I yelled. My daughter is at gate 54. A hand grabbed my shoulder. It was a uniformed officer. Go, he said. We got the call. Run. I ran until my chest burned until the edges of my vision started to blur. When I turned the corner toward gate 54, the scene was chaotic. Passengers were huddled against the walls. Police tape was already being strung up. And in the center of the storm, I saw the end of Caleb Reed. He was pressed into the carpet by 3 officers, his expensive suit torn, his hands cuffed behind his back.
He was shouting about lawsuits, about unlawful arrest, about his rights. But nobody was listening. The spell was broken. I scanned the area frantically. Where was she? Then I saw her. Maya was standing near the jetway door. She was not crying. She was holding on to a young woman who was shaking so violently she could barely stand. Hey, Monica. Maya was whispering to her, stroking her hair, protecting her. My daughter was not the victim anymore. She was the healer. She had walked through hell and immediately turned around to pull someone else out of the fire. Maya, I called out. She looked up. Her face was pale bruises forming on her wrists where he had grabbed her, but her eyes were clear. Dad. She let go of Monica and took a step toward me. I closed the distance in 3 strides and pulled her into my arms. I checked her pulse, her pupils, her breathing, and the doctor in me trying to override the terrified father. I'm okay, she whispered against my shoulder. I'm okay. He tried to grab Monica. He tried to use her as a shield when the police came. I bit him. I bit his hand, and I pulled her away. Detective Tyrell walked over holding an evidence bag containing Maya's phone. Dr. Freeman, your daughter is a hero. She did not just save herself, she got a confession. She kept the line open and the recorder running the entire time. We have him on tape admitting to the identity theft and the murder of Elena Rodriguez. He thought he was bragging to a helpless victim. He was confessing to a witness. Caleb twisted his head to look at us as they hauled him up. His lip was bleeding. His eyes were wild, searching for a weakness and opening anything he could exploit. Maya, he pleaded, his voice shifting instantly to a pathetic whimper. Tell them we love each other. Tell them I was protecting you. Maya stepped out of my embrace. She walked up to him, stopping just out of reach. She looked down at the man who had convinced her she was worthless. My name is Maya Freeman, she said, her voice steady and loud enough for the crowd to hear. I am a trauma psychologist. I know exactly what you are, and you will never hurt anyone ever again. Get him out of my sight. As the officers dragged him away, the crowd actually applauded. It was a surreal moment, but the real victory was not the applause. It was the look on the young girl's face, Monica, as she watched him disappear. She looked at Maya with awe. You saved me, she whispered. Maya reached out and took her hand. No, she said, we saved each other. The wheels of justice usually turn slowly, but when the evidence is as overwhelming as the mountain we built against Caleb Reed, they grind with a satisfying speed. 6 months later, I sat in the front row of the federal courthouse in San Francisco. The room was packed. Reporters, victims' families, and the parents of Elena Rodriguez were all there to witness the end of the man who had haunted our nightmares. When Maya took the stand, she did not look like the terrified woman I had seen at the airport. She wore a navy blue suit, her hair pulled back, her expression calm and professional. She was not there as a victim. She was there as an expert witness who happened to have survived the crime.
Mr. Reed uses a predictable cycle of abuse. She explained to the jury, her voice clear and steady. It is he identifies vulnerability, isolates the target from support systems, and induces a state of dependency through fear. She dissected him. She took apart his charm, his romance, and his manipulation until he was just a small, pathetic man in an oversized orange jumpsuit. Caleb tried to stare her down from the defense table, employing the same intimidation tactics he had used in my living room. But Maya did not even blink. She looked right through him, like he was a specimen in a jar. She stripped him of his power simply by refusing to be afraid. The jury took less than 2 hours to reach a verdict. Guilty on all counts. Identity theft, wire fraud, kidnapping, and the first-degree murder of Elena Rodriguez. When the judge read the sentence, life in federal prison without the possibility of parole, Caleb Reed finally showed his true face to the world. He screamed. He cursed. He blamed everyone but himself. But as the marshals dragged him out kicking and shouting, nobody looked at him. We were all looking at Maya. She closed her eyes and let out a long breath, releasing the last remnants of his control. The legal victory was just as absolute. Judge Wilson declared the marriage fraudulent and the property transfer void, ab initio, a legal term, meaning it never happened. The house on Oakwood Lane belonged to Maya Freeman, again free and clear. The debt he had racked up was assigned to him, not her. We had our lives back. But more importantly, we had our dignity back. Walking out of that courthouse, the sun felt different. It wasn't just bright. It was clean. We did not go back to our old lives after the trial. You cannot walk through fire and pretend you did not get burned. Instead, we decided to use the fire to light the way for others. Using the assets seized from Caleb's offshore accounts and the sale of the house that had become a crime scene, we opened the Phoenix Center. It is a sanctuary in San Francisco for victims of identity theft and psychological manipulation. Maya is the director. She took her trauma and sharpened it into a tool to cut others free. Monica, the girl from the airport, is our office manager. She is finishing her degree in social work. Watching them laugh together in the break room is the best medicine I have ever known. Maya is building a personal future too. She is engaged to a man named David. He is a pediatric nurse, patient, kind, and completely boring in the most wonderful way possible. He does not try to isolate her. He invites me to Sunday dinner. He understands that love is not about possession.
It is about participation. Last week, I sat in my garden watching Maya plant new rose bushes. She looked up and smiled, and for the first time in years, I did not check my pulse. I didn't worry about my heart rate. I realized that my job was never to save her. My job was just to love her enough so she could save herself. I used to think that being a father meant standing in front of my child to take the bullets. Now, I know it means standing beside her so she knows she doesn't have to fight alone. The house on Oakwood Lane is gone, sold to a nice family who knows nothing of its history, but the home we built, the one made of trust and truth that is standing stronger than ever. If this story reminded you of someone, listen to that instinct. Call them. Show up. Break the polite silence. Because sometimes the only thing standing between a victim and a tragedy is a father who refuses to follow the rules. We live in a world that tells us to mind our own business, to respect boundaries, and to avoid conflict at all costs. But silence is the weapon that predators use to destroy us. Dr. Freeman proved that the most dangerous thing you can do when you suspect abuse is nothing. Love is not passive. It is a fierce, active force that breaks down doors when the people we care about are locked behind them. If your gut tells you something is wrong, do not wait for permission to act. Your intuition is not paranoia, it is protection. If this story moved you, please share it with your family today. You never know whose life you might be saving just by opening their eyes.